Welcome to today's lecture. In a rapidly changing and complex modern world, personal relationships play a crucial role in shaping our emotions, happiness, and success. However, maintaining a relationship isn't always easy. Differences in personality, needs, and desires between individuals can often lead to conflicts. In today's lecture, we will deeply explore the principles taught by the Buddha to help us build and sustain happy, enduring relationships. We won't only learn how to apply these principles to romantic relationships, but also to all types of connections, from family to friends and colleagues. No matter what challenges your relationships may face, these principles will help strengthen them and add deeper meaning to them. Sharing is the foundation of connection in all relationships. We have all experienced moments when a small word or action from a loved one can touch our hearts and dissolve all distance. From the time of the Buddha until today, sharing has always been considered one of the fundamental principles in building healthy and lasting relationships. But do we truly understand and practice sharing sincerely and meaningfully? We often think of sharing as something tangible, such as sharing wealth, work, or daily tasks. However, sharing in a relationship goes far beyond the material. It is the communion of emotions, thoughts, and even those things we sometimes hesitate to express. How many times have you found yourself unable to voice your deepest thoughts to your spouse? How many times have you hidden your true feelings, hoping that it wouldn't hurt the other person, or worse, just to keep a small part of yourself private? In reality, a lack of genuine sharing is the cause of many relationships growing distant, even when they appear peaceful on the surface. The small arguments, the suppressed emotions over time, will gradually become an invisible wall that separates two people. So why don't we try to share? Why don't we open up and allow our loved ones to understand our worries, desires, and even the smallest things in our hearts? Have you ever thought that perhaps your silence has hurt others more than your honest words? In a marriage, sharing is vital. The challenges of family life, from work, children, to financial pressures, can often make one partner feel left out. If a husband does not share the difficulties he encounters at work, the wife may not understand why he has become distant and irritable. Conversely, if a wife does not express her concerns about the children or the family's financial situation, the husband may think she is too demanding or does not trust him. Have you ever wondered if your silence makes your partner feel abandoned? Sharing is not only in words, but also in actions. Sometimes small actions like preparing a good meal for each other or simply sitting together after a long day can create a bond stronger than hours of conversation. But the important thing is that every action must come from sincerity and the desire to share joy and sorrow with the person you love. In today's modern world, where life is so busy with work and technology, we seem to be losing the ability to listen and share. Smartphones are always in our hands. Conversations are interrupted by messages or work calls. Do you remember the last time you truly listened to your partner without distractions? Sharing requires the full presence of the mind and heart, not just physical presence. If not, sharing will become an empty formality, without any real value. In the relationship between parents and children, sharing takes on an even deeper meaning. When we share with our children, we not only help them understand life better but also build their trust in themselves and the world around them. Many parents, due to the busyness of life, no longer have time to sit down and talk with their children. They think that as long as they meet their material needs, that is enough. But is it really so? Do your children truly understand you? And likewise, do you understand their challenges and concerns? A child growing up in a family lacking in sharing may feel isolated and disconnected from the world. They may seek to share with unhealthy sources outside the family, which could lead to serious consequences. On the other hand, if children feel that their parents are always ready to listen and share with them, they will be more confident when facing life's challenges. Try to recall the last time you sat with your child and truly listened without judgment. Without comparison, simply listened. Have you realized that your child also has deep emotions and needs to share? Sharing is a two-way process, not just one person speaking and the other merely listening. We need to learn to share and listen actively. Are you willing to listen to others without immediately judging? Listening is the art of patience and compassion. When you listen to someone share, you help them feel respected and understood. This creates a strong bond in every relationship, from marriage to friendship, from parent to child. In modern life, many people worry that sharing too much will leave them vulnerable or misunderstood. But in reality, keeping emotions and thoughts inside is the main reason relationships crack. A prime example is when someone does not share their negative emotions, allowing them to build up over time and eventually explode into unnecessary arguments. Have you ever felt exhausted from holding too much inside without being able to share? In Buddhism, sharing is considered an act of compassion. The Buddha taught that we should open our hearts to share not only material things, but also our spirits with those around us. When you share joy, you double it. When you share sorrow, that sorrow is halved. In a relationship, sharing helps us understand one another better, allowing us to empathize and support each other in every situation. Imagine a home where each member lives in their own world, without sharing with anyone. That house may be beautiful, full of amenities, but is it truly warm? Is it a place you want to return to after a long day? Do you want to live in a house where everyone is lonely in their own space? To make a house a home, the most important thing is sharing, connecting the members of the family. Sharing is also the key to resolving all conflicts. When you feel dissatisfied or upset about something, instead of remaining silent and letting those negative feelings build up, share them with the person you are in conflict with. They may not understand what you are going through if you don't speak up. Do you think that sometimes your silence only makes things worse? Be open and honest, because only honesty brings about true understanding. In conclusion, sharing is not just about giving, but also about receiving. When we share, we not only help others, but also help ourselves feel lighter and happier. Sharing is never too much. In fact, it is always too little in this busy world. Remember, every time you share a part of your soul, you are building a stronger and more lasting relationship. So, are you ready to share today? Morality and loyalty, the foundation of all relationships. Throughout our journey in life, we are constantly faced with relationships. Relationships with ourselves, with those around us, and most significantly, with our families, the place where we are born, raised, and where we nurture love throughout our lives. But do we ever pause and ask ourselves, what truly forms the foundation that allows a relationship to endure, grow, and thrive over time? The answer lies in morality and loyalty. In today's world, we often see relationships becoming fragile, easily broken. Sometimes, it takes just one careless word, one thoughtless action, or an act of betrayal, and a love that once seemed unshakable can crumble in an instant. But is this simply by chance? Or is there something deeper in how we treat each other that leads relationships down this path? When it comes to relationships, especially in marriage and family, trust is the most crucial element. And to build trust, we must live morally. The Buddha taught about the 5 precepts, with the 3rd precept being not to commit adultery, not to deceive. In any relationship, deception, even the smallest, can break the trust between two people. Once trust is shaken, the relationship becomes difficult to sustain. So, have you ever thought, what makes a relationship truly trustworthy? In a family, loyalty and honesty are not just abstract concepts, they are the concrete foundation upon which love and mutual respect are built. When a husband and wife come together, they not only share joys and sorrows, but they are also bound by a commitment, a vow, that they will stand by each other through thick and thin. But reality is not always smooth. There will be times of tension, disagreements, and sometimes temptations from the outside that may cause one to lose their way. And what happens if one of them forgets that vow? Can loyalty still remain intact? And if betrayal has taken place, how can we rebuild trust? Morality, the first pillar of a sustainable relationship. Morality is not just about following the rules of ethics laid out by society, but more profoundly, it is about self-awareness, a conscious effort to govern one's actions. Morality in marriage is about respect, love, and not causing harm to one another. The Buddha once said, "A person with morality is like a pillar of stone in the middle of the ocean, unmoved by any storm." So, what can we learn from this teaching? In marriage, Morality means respecting your partner, not allowing external temptations to interfere with your relationship. Every action, every word must be considered, because even a slight mistake can cause deep wounds. Have you ever heard the saying, "One small lie can lead to 100 more"? This is especially true in relationships. When loyalty is broken by dishonesty, the relationship can never be the same. Loyalty, the second pillar that elevates love. What is loyalty? Is it merely not betraying each other? Or is it about devotion, standing by your partner, and weathering life's challenges together? Loyalty goes beyond simply avoiding betrayal. It means being fully committed to your partner and standing by them in all circumstances. What does this mean? It means that when faced with life's storms, you remain steadfast by their side, not abandoning them even when things seem at their worst. It also means being honest in all situations, even when the truth is hard to bear. Do you believe that loyalty is the core of a long-lasting relationship? Look around and ask yourself, how many enduring marriages exist without loyalty? We often hear stories of couples who have been together for decades. They have weathered countless trials, but what has helped them persevere? It is loyalty. When you are loyal, you not only build trust but also affirm to your partner, "I will always stand by you, no matter what happens." Family, the place where loyalty is tested every day. Family is the place where loyalty and morality are tested the most. In marriage, you may face temptations from the outside, but how do you overcome them? Is it simply a matter of resisting temptation? Or do you need to nurture the relationship daily so that there is no room for betrayal to occur? Ask yourself, what have you done today to protect your relationship? Sometimes, it's the small, everyday gestures that help maintain love and loyalty. A word of encouragement, a hug, or simply listening to your partner can make a big difference. Loyalty is not something that comes naturally. It must be cultivated. It must be cared for every day. The love between parents and children. Loyalty is not only in marriage. Loyalty and morality are not only crucial in a marital relationship, but also in the relationship between parents and children. Parents have the responsibility to teach their children these values from a young age. If parents are not loyal to each other, how can children learn loyalty? If parents do not live morally, how can children learn to live rightly? Have you ever wondered, how can you teach your children about loyalty? Every day, you are the example for your children. When you are honest in your relationship, your children will see and follow suit. When you respect your spouse, your children will learn how to respect others. Every action you take affects not only your relationship, but also the next generation. The story of those who are loyal. I once knew a couple who had been together for over 40 years. They weren't wealthy or famous, but their relationship always inspired admiration from those around them. I once asked them what their secret was, and they simply replied, "We've always been loyal to each other, no matter what difficulties or challenges came our way." Do you believe that loyalty can overcome all challenges? They shared that during the toughest times, the only thing that kept them together was loyalty. They never doubted each other's love, and they never betrayed one another, no matter how tempting life's challenges were. It was loyalty that helped them build a happy family, where their children also learned the value of honesty and trust. Conclusion: how to maintain loyalty and morality in a relationship. Loyalty and morality are not things that are automatically present in a relationship. They must be built from both sides, from even the smallest actions. If you want your partner to be loyal to you, you must first be loyal to them. If you want your children to live morally, you must first live by the values you wish to impart. Ask yourself, how have I lived with morality and loyalty in my relationship today? Every day, we have the opportunity to strengthen loyalty and morality in our relationships. The challenges and difficulties we face are merely lessons for us to grow and to better appreciate the core values of life. Human beings and differences in relationships. Acceptance of differences as the foundation of understanding and empathy. One of the greatest obstacles in relationships, as the Buddha taught, is our failure to recognize and accept the differences between ourselves and others. This is particularly true in romantic or marital relationships, where many people often expect their partner to think and act like them. We hear questions like, "Why don't you think like I do?" Or why don't you act the way I do? Such differences in personality, life perspectives, and personal values are natural and unavoidable. Let us consider the example of a couple who have been together for over 30 years. They shared that during the early years of their marriage, they frequently clashed due to their differing personalities. The husband was introverted and valued quiet time, while the wife was vivacious and thrived in lively environments. Initially, they both tried to change each other, which only led to more conflict. Over time, however, they realized that instead of attempting to change one another, they needed to accept and understand these differences. Through this acceptance and respect for each other's uniqueness, they were able to build a lasting relationship over the decades. Practical steps for practicing acceptance and understanding. To apply this principle in daily life, one might begin by creating space for differences. This goes beyond merely listening. It requires respecting differing viewpoints. We can ask ourselves, how can I support my partner while maintaining my own individuality? Rather than trying to change the other person, seek ways for both of you to grow together, drawing strength from your diversity. Differences are an essential aspect of human existence, enriching our relationships and giving us opportunities to grow and learn. Imagine a world where everyone thinks and behaves the same. Would that bring joy, or would it lead to a monotonous existence? In relationships, particularly close ones like marriage, we often fail to recognize that differences are inevitable and instead perceive them as barriers that must be overcome. In reality, these differences offer a chance for us to learn from one another and grow. Accepting differences does not mean we must agree with everything. Instead, it's about opening our hearts to understand that each person has their own journey, their own experiences that shape their personality, opinions, and behaviors. When we accept that differences are not problems to be solved, but opportunities for learning and growth, relationships become lighter, more natural. This is especially true in intimate relationships, where many people desire their partners to mirror themselves or even try to change them to meet their expectations. Take, for example, the story of a couple who have been married for over 3 decades. During the early years of their marriage, they continually encountered conflict due to their differences. The husband was quiet and introspective, while the wife was energetic and loved being around people. Initially, they tried to change each other, believing that if their partner became more like them, life would be easier. But the opposite happened. Conflicts deepened, and the gap between them widened. It was only when they both realized that trying to change each other was exhausting and harmful that they began to understand and respect their differences. The husband learned to participate in the lively activities his wife enjoyed, while the wife came to appreciate her husband's need for quiet and solitude. Importantly, they no longer saw their differences as problems to be solved, but as a natural part of their relationship. In doing so, they transformed the very things that once caused conflict into opportunities for greater understanding and love. This is a profound lesson for all of us. When faced with differences, rather than reacting negatively or trying to change others, we can pause and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I love and understand this person more through these differences? The answers often lead us down a gentler path, one of compassion and empathy. We must also remember that differences go beyond surface-level traits like hobbies or habits. They reach into the deep-seated values and beliefs that each person holds. These values and beliefs are shaped over time through life experiences and learning, forming the foundation of how a person sees the world and interacts with others. When we fail to understand or respect these values, conflicts and misunderstandings easily arise. But when we can accept and honor these deeply held beliefs, our relationships can deepen, and we ourselves grow in compassion. Consider another example. In a relationship, one person may value honesty and directness, while the other places importance on maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict. These differences in values can lead to tension if not understood or respected. The person who values honesty may feel that the other is being evasive or dishonest, while the one who values peace may feel overwhelmed or pressured by confrontational conversations. However, if they both sit down and discuss the values they hold dear, they may realize that neither is acting with ill intent. They are simply following what they believe to be right. When we understand that others' actions stem from their unique beliefs and values, it becomes easier to accept and respect them. This does not mean we must agree with everything, but it allows us to view others with an open and compassionate heart. In a world filled with differences, tolerance and understanding are key to building strong and happy relationships. How, then, can we practice this acceptance and understanding in our daily lives? First, we can begin by truly listening. When we listen to others not just to respond, but to understand, we begin to see that each person carries their own stories, their own pains and joys. Put yourself in their shoes and imagine how you would feel if you had gone through similar experiences. This is how we cultivate compassion. Second, we should create space for differences. This means allowing others to be who they are without feeling pressure to change to fit our expectations. In a relationship, rather than trying to change your partner, learn to love and accompany them, no matter their quirks or differences. Instead of focusing on what we dislike about others, we should concentrate on the positive things they bring to our lives. Finally, we should remember that differences are what make life rich and interesting. If everyone were the same, life would become dull and creativity would fade. It is through the diversity of perspectives, values, and personalities that we have the opportunity to learn and grow every day. Rather than seeing differences as challenges, view them as gifts, as opportunities to become better versions of ourselves. When we practice acceptance and understanding in our relationships, we not only bring happiness to others, but also create peace and contentment within ourselves. More importantly, we find that, in our differences, we are deeply connected to one another, transcending surface-level differences to touch the core essence of existence. We are all human beings seeking love, understanding, and peace in this life. In the most challenging moments of a relationship, remember that differences are not something to be defeated or overcome, but are pathways to learning to love each other more deeply. When we accept differences and strive to understand others, we not only build strong relationships, but also take a step closer to enlightenment, freeing ourselves from the sufferings and frustrations of this world. Moving towards a common goal together in life, we each seek something to hold on to, something that gives our existence meaning. However, it's fascinating how we often forget that we don't live in isolation, we exist within relationships. These relationships, whether between spouses, children and parents, or friends, hold a unique power. But do we truly understand how to make these relationships a positive force, one that fosters growth not only for ourselves, but for others as well, a common goal? It sounds simple, but is it truly as easy as it seems? In many instances, we look to the relationship between husband and wife as a model for other types of relationships. Think about this: if you and your partner don't share the same goal, if you're not both moving towards the same destination, what will your journey together be like? Do you feel as though you are heading in one direction, while your partner is going in another? What happens when these two paths diverge further and further apart? In Buddhism, the Buddha emphasized the importance of moving towards a common goal. In the monastic life, monks must work together toward a shared aim, liberation and enlightenment. This is not just an individual goal, it is collective. One cannot achieve enlightenment alone without the support of others, because a deep understanding of life's nature can only be attained through relationships with others. Let's apply this to our daily lives. Spouses are not just companions in life, they are also comrades, people who share the same goals. If your goal is to build a happy family, then every decision, every action from both of you must work towards that goal. But the question is, have both of you truly understood and agreed upon that common goal? Or is one of you unknowingly setting different expectations that the other is not aware of? Perhaps one of the most practical examples is when one person wants to succeed in their career, while the other desires a large family. When two people are not aligned in their goals, tension builds, leading to inevitable conflict. And then we ask ourselves, why do we feel so distant from each other? Is it because we no longer love each other? Or is it simply because we lack the courage to sit down and define our shared goals from the very beginning? Imagine a family where both husband and wife are united in a common goal, say, creating a loving and supportive environment for their children's development. Every day, their actions revolve around that goal. When conflicts arise, they ask themselves, does this bring us closer to our shared goal? If not, why should we let it affect our relationship? Let me tell you a small story, one that might make you reflect on your own relationship and the idea of a common goal. There was a couple who had been married for nearly 30 years. In the beginning, they were like any other couple, deeply in love and sharing dreams of the future. However, over time, the husband became engrossed in his career, while the wife focused on caring for the family and their children. They began to live as two separate individuals, each leading their own lives, no longer moving toward the same destination. Eventually, they realized that although they still lived together, their hearts had drifted in opposite directions. Do you feel like you are in a similar situation? If so, are you willing to sit down, listen, and truly understand your partner's goals? We often think our goals are obvious, that everyone should understand them. But the truth is, we cannot read each other's minds. So why not ask? What are your goals? How can we work together to achieve them? Shared goals aren't only about grand ambitions like building a family or achieving career success. Sometimes, they are found in the small things that bring lasting happiness. Think about the little moments, cooking a meal together, cleaning the house as a team, or simply going for a walk together. These simple actions can also become shared goals if both partners value them, but common goals aren't limited to the relationship between spouses. Let's extend this idea to the relationship between parents and children. How can we, as parents, walk alongside our children toward a common goal? Are we imposing our own desires on them, without understanding that they, too, have dreams and goals of their own? Just because our children don't always express their feelings doesn't mean they don't have them. Have we truly taken the time to listen to our children? One day, a father asked his son, "What do you want to be in the future?" The boy replied, "I want to be an artist." The father, though he said nothing, felt disappointed inside. He had hoped his son would become an engineer, believing it to be a stable and promising career. So, the father began to pressure his son to focus on science and math, while the boy drifted further from his dream. Eventually, the boy became withdrawn, quiet, and stopped sharing anything with his father. Does this story remind you of your relationship with your children? Perhaps we have, at some point, forced our children to chase dreams they never wanted. But instead of pushing them, why not sit down together, listen, and understand what their goals are, and then support them in building a future where both parent and child can find happiness? To move towards a common goal together, the most important thing is listening and understanding. We need to listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts. Because when we listen with our hearts, we hear more than just the words being spoken, we also feel the emotions and desires behind them. Do you often listen to your loved ones? When your partner shares something with you, do you truly pay attention to every word, or are you just waiting for your turn to respond? When your children want to tell you about their day, do you stop everything you're doing to listen to them with your whole heart, or do you just brush it off with a few polite questions? If we can't truly listen, how can we understand each other's goals? And without empathy, how can there be cooperation or progress? In the end, I want you to ask yourself, are you and your spouse, children, or loved ones moving toward a common goal? If the answer is no, what are you willing to do to change that? We don't need to change the world, just changing how we see and listen to each other can create positive changes in our relationships. Moving toward a common goal together is not easy. But with mutual understanding, empathy, and compassion, nothing is impossible. Kind words, the healing power of language. Words hold immense power. This is something we often forget in the busyness and stress of daily life. Words are not merely empty sounds, they are expressions of the mind and heart, carrying love, anger, hatred, or deep understanding. How many times have we said something thoughtlessly, only to regret it later? How many times have we hurt others with our careless words? Think back to a time when you heard or spoke a kind word. Do you remember a moment when someone said something kind to you, and it changed your day? A word of encouragement from a friend or a simple "well done" from a colleague can soothe exhaustion and anxiety. Have you ever considered how those words impacted your mood and outlook on life? We can easily recognize the power of words through a simple example. There's a story of a young couple seemingly on the brink of breaking up. They frequently argued, and every confrontation ended with harsh, hurtful words. They were on the verge of giving up on each other until they decided to join a meditation retreat that focused on compassion and using kind language in communication. During this process, they realized that it wasn't their disagreements that caused the rift, but rather the harsh words that eroded trust and love between them. By changing how they spoke to each other, they learned to listen, understand, and use words to rebuild their relationship. Instead of criticism and blame, they gradually shifted to words of encouragement, gratitude, and appreciation. As a result, not only was their relationship healed, but it also became stronger than ever. So, how can we apply kind words to our daily lives? Be mindful of what you say. One of the most important things you can do is to become aware of what you say. Often, we speak without thinking, letting our emotions dictate our words. When we are angry or frustrated, we tend to say things that aren't kind, not only hurting others, but also leading us to regret later. Learning to pause for a moment before speaking, especially in tense moments, is crucial. Ask yourself, is this really necessary, or will this help the other person? You might be surprised to realize that sometimes just a brief pause before speaking can completely change the outcome of a conversation. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you felt that saying something unkind could solve the problem instantly, but instead, you chose to remain silent or say something gentle rather than criticizing? Did you notice how the tension slowly dissipated and the atmosphere became more pleasant? Use words to encourage and motivate. One of the best ways to practice kind speech is to use your words to encourage and uplift others. You don't need to say anything grand or profound. Sometimes, a simple compliment or a question about someone's well-being is enough to make them feel cared for and loved. A word of encouragement can ease self-doubt and bring confidence to the listener. Think of a friend or colleague of yours. They might be going through a tough time, and your kind words could provide the support and motivation they need. Have you ever wondered why it is easier for us to criticize others than to praise them? Why do we often overlook moments to express gratitude and instead focus on faults and shortcomings? What would happen if we changed this habit and started to look for the good in others? Kind words benefit not only the listener, but also the speaker. Did you know that when you use kind words, you are not just making the listener feel better but also benefiting yourself? When you speak positively, your body and mind respond positively. You will feel lighter, your mood will improve, and perhaps even your health will get better. This has been scientifically proven. People who practice compassion and use kind language tend to be happier and less stressed. Where can you start? Imagine a specific situation in your daily life. Perhaps you are struggling with a relationship with a colleague or a family member. Can you use kind words to improve this situation? What would happen if you started with a compliment or a gentle question instead of criticism and blame? Kind words in difficult situations. Of course, speaking kindly is not always easy, especially when we are faced with stressful or challenging situations. When someone makes you angry or disappointed, staying calm and using kind language can be a significant challenge. However, this is precisely when the power of kind words is most evident. Imagine a situation where someone is criticizing you or saying something unkind. What would you do? Would you react by saying something equally hurtful, or would you choose to listen and respond with understanding and compassion? There is a story about the Buddha. Once, a man insulted him, but instead of reacting with anger, the Buddha simply smiled and said, "If someone brings a gift to you, but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "It would still belong to the person who brought it." The Buddha then responded, "Exactly. And likewise, I do not accept your harsh words. They still belong to you." This story reminds us that we always have a choice. We can choose not to accept harsh words and respond with compassion instead, connecting through kind words. Kind words not only have the power to heal, but also the ability to connect people. In a world where isolation and insecurity are on the rise, using kind words can create bridges between us. Have you ever wondered why some relationships grow distant while others become deeper and more enduring? Could it be that the words we use play an essential role in this? Ask yourself, am I using words to create connection or to build distance? If the answer is distance, how can you change that? Perhaps it starts with a simple question of concern, a word of encouragement, or a basic expression of gratitude. Change does not come from grand actions. It starts with small things, like kind words in everyday moments. So, are you ready today to experience the healing power of kind words? Compassion in action, small acts, big connections. Have you ever wondered why so many relationships fall apart after years of being together? Why does a love that was once so passionate fade away, replaced by cold silence, or even resentment and frustration? Is it because we've stopped loving each other, or is it because we've stopped caring, stopped showing compassion through our actions? The Buddha taught that compassion is not only expressed through words or thoughts, but also through tangible, everyday actions. These actions, however small, hold immense power in maintaining and strengthening relationships between people, especially in the context of marriages and parent-child relationships. Small acts, big impact. Do you remember the last time you made your loved one a cup of tea, or cooked a simple meal with care and love? To many, these actions might seem insignificant, but they are clear manifestations of compassion. They not only lighten the load of daily life, but also serve as a recognition that we care about and love the other person. These small acts are like seeds of compassion that are planted and nurtured, growing into invisible but strong bonds between two people. Imagine this: you're a husband, returning home after a long, tiring day at work. Instead of sitting down to rest immediately, you decide to help your wife prepare dinner or clean up the house. These small actions are a living testimony to the love and respect you have for her. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, are these small actions enough to sustain a lifetime of love? Or do you believe that love can only be nourished by grand gestures, expensive gifts, or sweet words? There's a story of a couple who have been married for over 20 years. When asked about the secret to maintaining their relationship, they didn't talk about luxurious vacations or expensive gifts. Instead, they shared how they've always supported each other in the smallest of ways, from sharing the responsibility of raising their children to helping out around the house. They never stopped making each other's lives easier, even if it was just making coffee in the morning or cleaning up after dinner. It's this daily kindness and compassion that has helped them weather every storm and keep their love strong for 2 decades. How to practice compassion in relationships? Compassion can be practiced in many ways. Sometimes, it's as simple as listening, sharing, and understanding each other more deeply. Sometimes, it's about making time to be together, not for any specific purpose, but just to be present, to feel each other's presence. Do you often listen to the unspoken needs of your spouse or children? There are times when our loved ones don't explicitly ask for help, but in reality, they need it. Perhaps your wife is exhausted after a long day of taking care of the children and managing household chores. She may not say it, but the fatigue in her eyes speaks volumes. So, are you willing to step in and help, even if she doesn't ask? That is compassion, understanding the needs of others without them having to put it into words. It's similar in the parent-child relationship. Sometimes children don't need expensive toys or the latest gadgets, they just need your time, attention, and love. Sitting down to listen to your child talk about their day at school or playing with them in the park can create a deeper connection than any gift you could buy. Unconditional compassion. In Buddhism, compassion is an action that expects nothing in return. We help others, love others, not because we expect something back, but because that is how we express our humanity and compassion. When you do something good for someone without expecting anything in return, you create a positive energy, an unconditional love. This will spread and transform your relationship. Think back to the last time you did something kind for someone without expecting anything in return. Maybe it was helping a stranger on the street, or preparing a nice meal for your family without needing them to thank you. How did that make you feel? Did you feel happier, more at peace? That's the power of compassion. Rhetorical questions for reflection. If you don't help your loved ones with the small tasks, who will? And if you don't do it with love and compassion, can your relationship last in the long term? Imagine if every day you did something small but kind for your family, like helping your wife clean up after dinner or listening to your children talk about their day. Do you think these small actions could transform your family relationships? Are you willing to try that today? Patience and compassion in difficult times. Life is not always smooth sailing. There are times when we are tired, stressed, and easily angered. But it is in these moments that compassion is most needed. When your partner makes a mistake, instead of blaming them, ask yourself, can I approach this situation with compassion rather than judgment? How easy is it for us to forgive those we love when they've done something wrong? The Buddha taught that compassion isn't only for peaceful moments, but is especially important when we face challenges and difficulties. When your spouse does something that hurts you, instead of reacting with anger and judgment, try to see the situation through the lens of compassion. Are they perhaps struggling with something in their own life? Could they be in need of your understanding and support? Are you willing to forgive and start again? You might think that it's too hard, but in reality, forgiveness and compassion will free you from negative emotions, bringing you inner peace. Conclusion: small acts, big effects. Compassionate action doesn't have to be grand or complicated. Sometimes, the smallest, everyday acts can create the biggest changes in our relationships. It is through these small, sincere, and compassionate actions that we build stronger connections with those around us, especially with those we love. Are you willing, starting today, to carry out small but compassionate acts for your loved ones? A small gesture can make a big difference in your life and relationships. Are you ready to give it a try? Where will you begin? Kind thinking, the root of actions and words. Have you ever wondered why, in our daily lives, there are times when we find it so difficult to communicate with others, even with those we love the most? Our spouses, children, friends, colleagues, people we have been close to for many years, yet sometimes a careless word or a thoughtless action can cause deep hurt. Have you ever asked yourself why? It's because, at the core of every action and word, there is thought. What is thought? It's the stream of your consciousness, the deep emotions in your soul, the ideas that shape how you perceive the world and those around you. And that thought can be kind and positive, but it can also be judgmental and negative. What is kind thinking? Kind thinking is not only about being good to others, but also about showing compassion to yourself. It is the ability to see the strengths and weaknesses in others without using judgment to impose upon them. Have you ever asked yourself, how many times have I judged someone in just one day? Perhaps when driving, you feel anger towards someone moving slowly in front of you. Or when you come home and your spouse does not do something the way you want, you feel frustrated or upset. What makes you react this way? Is it because the other person is wrong? Or is it because of your own thoughts? We often believe that others should act according to our expectations because we think we are right. But what would happen if you changed your mindset, if you started seeing everything with compassion and understanding? You would realize that the person driving slowly might be worried about something in their life. Your spouse might have had a tough day and simply doesn't have the energy to do everything perfectly. When you think about it this way, do you feel your heart lighten? Why is kind thinking important in marriage and family relationships? Let's take a look at marriage, where we often have high expectations of each other. Have you ever felt disappointed when your spouse didn't do something the way you expected? These small conflicts, if not addressed positively, can accumulate over time, creating a gap between the two of you. But what would happen if you changed your mindset, if you started to look at your spouse with compassion and understanding? For example, instead of criticizing when your spouse comes home late, you might ask yourself, how was their day? Could it have been a difficult one? When you start asking these questions, you find it harder to get angry. And when you act with kindness, you will see that the relationship becomes lighter, warmer. The same goes for children. They do not always understand what is right or wrong. They learn from those around them, and sometimes they make mistakes. But do you scold them every time they do something wrong? Or can you view their mistakes as part of their learning process and help them with compassion? When you do that, you not only teach your child how to handle situations, but also about compassion and patience. Kind thinking, the root of words and actions. Words hold immense power. Do you remember the last time someone said something that hurt you? That comment may have been said without much thought, yet it stayed with you for days or even years. And you may have done the same to someone else without realizing it. Why are words so important? Because words are the outcome of thoughts. If you have judgmental thoughts, your words will carry criticism. But if you have kind thoughts, your words will bring comfort and encouragement. Think back to a situation where you reacted unkindly. Perhaps it was an argument with your spouse or a criticism of your child. What was going through your mind at that moment? Did you feel offended or think the other person had done something wrong? But what would happen if you paused and thought, can I try to understand them? Can I put myself in their shoes and feel what they're going through? When you change your thoughts, your actions and words will change as well. Practicing kind thinking in daily life. Change begins with the smallest things. You don't need to become a perfect person right away, but you can start by asking yourself, what unkind thoughts did I have today? Who did I judge? What can I do to change the way I think and feel about others? These questions not only help you recognize your negative thought patterns, but also open the door for you to practice compassion every day. Let's try a real-life scenario. You come home after a long, tiring day, and your child spills a glass of water on the table. What is your first reaction? Is it to get angry and scold them? Or can you pause, take a deep breath, and think, they're just a child, they didn't mean to spill the water. I can teach them to be more careful without shouting. Do you see the difference? When you change your thoughts, not only does your child learn from you, but you also find greater peace within yourself. Kind thinking in social relationships. In modern society, we are often caught up in the worries and pressures of work and life. This can easily lead to negative reactions towards those around us. But if you practice kind thinking, you will see that not only your family relationships, but also your social relationships will improve. Think of a time when you dealt with a difficult colleague. You might feel annoyed and think, why is she acting like this? But if you stop and think, maybe they're going through something difficult in their life. What can I do to help? When you change your mindset, instead of reacting to their discomfort, you can respond with understanding and compassion. How to nurture kind thinking. The Buddha teaches that kind thinking does not come naturally. It must be cultivated through practice and mindfulness. You can start by meditating, calming your mind, and recognizing your negative thoughts. Whenever you catch yourself in a judgmental thought, stop and replace it with a positive one. This isn't easy, but over time, you will find that kind thinking becomes more natural. Another way to nurture kind thinking is through practicing gratitude. Each day, take a moment to think about the things you are grateful for, no matter how small they may seem. This helps you realize that life isn't always difficult, and people don't always get things wrong. Conclusion: kind thinking is not just a philosophy, but a way of life. It affects how you behave, how you speak, and most importantly, how you feel about the world around you. When you practice kind thinking, you not only bring happiness to others, but you also find peace and love within yourself. So, are you ready to change your thinking from today? Are you willing to face life's challenges with compassion and understanding? The answer lies within you.